Hello, everyone who's joined so far. We're going to give it just 2 minutes for those who've registered to join the call. So please just sit tight and we'll get started here in a couple of minutes. We'll just give it 2 more minutes and then we'll get started. Thanks everyone for waiting. Thank you everyone for waiting. It's my pleasure to welcome you to today's first national media briefing of the REI National Union. Today, you'll hear from workers from all 9 unionized stores across the country. Over the past 2 years, workers have been working together on a unified national platform. Over the past 2 weeks, it's been unveiled over social media 10 essentials that they've been fighting for at the bargaining table. Since 2022, workers at Soho have been fighting for a union contract. They've yet to reach one. And tomorrow, workers will be facing REI head-on and demanding that they come to the table to bargain for that contract. Shortly, you'll hear from all of the workers, but workers at Soho and Berkeley have been fighting for too long to get to that first contract, and they've faced 2 different attorneys to get there. Right now, I'll play a video from actions that have been taking place over the past 2 weeks that have demanded that 10 essentials be reached. You'll hear from workers at all 9 stores. Then you'll hear the history of bargaining as it has been unfolded at all 9 stores. Then we'll pivot to questions from the media. For reporters who are asking questions on topic, please hold your questions till the end of all of the comments. You can ask questions using the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. Reporters will be called on in the orders of the questions received. Your mic will be open to ask those questions. Now, let's turn to the video.
We are We are the green vest of the REI union. Forming a union is how we courageously embrace change. It's how we hold ourselves and our co-op to a higher standard. With REI respecting our union voice and demonstrating collaborative intentions, we will go further together.
When you have people who are working hard, who have dedicated themselves to an organization, then there is an obligation that that organization take good care of them. If an individual feels that their voice is not sufficient or they're not being heard, there's a natural tendency to form a collective. And I think that that's what the whole union movement is. It's a collective to get back to some basics.
And now I'll turn to Caleb from REI Union Boston to speak to their community event and how they're involving co-op members in their fight for a fair contract. Caleb?
Hi, everybody. My name is Caleb. I'm from REI Boston. I've worked in the Boston store since fall of 2020, so I've been there for a little bit. We organized back in May of 2023, and the essential that we were focused on for this action was insulation, which means job security. So when we think about outfitting a customer, rain jackets and down jackets really help us protect them from the outside environments that they might face on their adventure. And for us, we want to be protected from the outside elements through job security, and that is through a contract that ensures that we are protected as workers. So for our action, we gathered at a local park called Olmsted Park in Jamaica Plain, so a suburb of Boston. And engage directly with the community through handbilling. We were able to engage with members that were passerbys as well as members that we invited, and they got a chance to talk about how their voice can help amplify our mission to hold REI accountable to the values that they promised us, that they also promised its members and its workers. And now I will hand it over to Zoe from Soho to talk about their action.
Hi, I'm Zoe. I work at Soho, the flagship store in New York City. I've worked there for over 2 years now. I was hired November 2021, so right before we unionized. Our store is focused on the essential of shelter, which for us means a living wage and guaranteed minimum hours. Kind of similar to Caleb, you need some sort of shelter protecting you from the elements. And without a living wage and the money that we need to pay for our rent in a very expensive city, and guaranteed minimum hours to ensure that we are working enough to afford that as well, it would definitely ease some tensions in our mind. And for our event, we walked down the New York City High Line, which is a park that they built on top of an old rail outdoor above ground rail. It's now a beautiful park. They have art exhibits. It's really lovely. And we kind of just went, we talked, we hung out, and just kind of being in our city together. And next I'm going to go to Annie from Durham.
Hi, everyone. My name is Annie Saludo, and I'm honored to be participating in today's Zoom. I work in the Durham, North Carolina store. My location was the 6th REI store to unionize, and probably the first in the South. I started in June 2011 as a clothing and footwear specialist, and because of my extensive product knowledge, it was a great fit, pun intended. More recently, I have been moved to frontline/customer service, not by my choice. On Sunday, February 25th, we hosted a community social event at the William B. Umstead State Park. Many turned out to support their local REI union over a warm fire and tasty s'mores. Oh, and there was some banjo playing too. We discussed our essential for a better co-op navigation, why it's important, and how it impacts our lives. Navigation requires planning and a sense of direction to best understand how to get from one point to another. We need tools like a map and compass to help keep us on course. To have proper navigation as an REI employee means we need predictable scheduling so we can chart our work and personal lives. How can I stay on course if one week I'm scheduled 24 hours and 6 the next? How can I stay on course if I can't schedule a medical appointment because I don't know what days I'll have off? It's challenging to plan our lives when our next schedule is only posted 8 days in advance. Add to that the lack of consistency. Coworkers have shared with me their concern over the ability to pay their rent if they aren't scheduled 40 hours. Plus, they're unable to secure a second job due to the restrictive nature of REI's scheduling policy. Personally, I've tried to plan a trip nearly 1 year in advance to allow management enough time to ensure business needs are adequately staffed. And I still couldn't secure approval for my time away until a month out. I've also had trouble scheduling medical appointments in advance because management has told me that requests for that particular schedule period have closed, and I'd have to wait and see if approval was given. REI leaders say they hold themselves to a higher standard. They promote a life outside is a life well lived because they claim they want us to have a healthy work-life balance. Yet this model falls short in reality. Our community, and more importantly, our co-op members, support our stance for more say in our working conditions. We need a reliable schedule across the co-op in order to do our best work and also allow for planned time outdoors. Thanks. Next up is our Cleveland store. Dave, please take away the virtual mic.
Thanks, Amy. Hey guys, yeah, my name is Dave. I work at the Cleveland store in the bike shop there as a bike mechanic. I have been with REI for just about 6 years now. Pronouns are he, him. And we at the Cleveland store chose first aid as our essential. So our event looked a lot like Durham's event. We had a park shelter rented out in the nearby North Chagrin Reservation. We had a lot of turnout from employees at our store, both past and present. We had support from other local unions. We had some local politicians stop by and offer their support, as well as give some addresses to the group. What does first aid look like at REI? First aid looks like a viable sick policy. So we in retail work public facing jobs every day. So we are, constantly exposed to whatever bug happens to be going around at the moment. And, we also have several folks, at least, at our store who are facing chronic illnesses. And, they never know when they may need to take time off to deal with the realities of that. And as it stands right now, the policy requires that full-time workers work possibly months worth of shifts to be able to earn a single day of sick time. And our part-time workers don't accrue sick time at all. And we feel like this is just not a viable policy in place that can help our workers carry out the job that they need to. So with the lack of the sick time policy, workers who do need to take time off to take care of themselves can be disciplined up to and including termination for prioritizing their health. So we feel like that needs to change. I'm going to hand it over to Jeff at the newest unionized store, Castleton, Indiana.
Thank you, Dave. Hi, my name is Jeff. I'm pronouns he, him. My home department is camping, and I'm a full-time sales specialist at the Castleton, Indiana store. As Dave mentioned, we are the most recent store to vote yes for a union, and we are excited and hoping we're just the beginning of a new wave of union stores for 2024. While I have all of you here, I'd like to thank everyone for, on behalf of all the Castleton store, for all the support and love sent our way during the dark days of REI's union busting. It meant so much to hear the encouraging words and read them from all of you. Thank you so much. Our essential of the 10 essentials is sun protection. We believe this encompasses 3 main ideas: flexibility, parental leave, and longevity in the job. Flexibility focuses on employees with families. REI's new Stewarding Our Future campaign is anti-family. We have an amazing employee who had to step down from their role of full-time to part-time plus just because they didn't have 100% open availability. They have children and they need certain days, hours off, and REI is prioritizing availability over quality. The second idea of parental leave is parental leave. We want to ensure that REI continues to provide adequate paid leave for new parents. There needs to be longevity in the job. We believe all associates should have the availability to see a career path with REI if they so desire. This can only happen when they are scheduled enough hours to have it make sense for them to stay. Green vests are what make REI so special. It's the reason our members shop with us. Our stores had many employees with young kids, so fighting to not only protect parental leave, but improve flexibility for parents and make it REI a sustainable place to work is a huge part of the union. REI should be a place where all employees, no matter your age, family status, or life's unexpected circumstances, can have real longevity and a career. Now I will toss it to Jim from Chicago.
So this is a live event. Jim just lost power in Chicago, but he's trying to rejoin us now. But in the meantime, the essential in Chicago was Repair Kit, which stood for a real commitment to REI, which is the REDI program inside stores in our communities. We know there are structural inequalities in this world. We want REI to be a place where we can work to repair those. So we're hoping Jim can rejoin shortly. Also, our worker in Maple Grove, Minnesota, unfortunately, just before the call was called away. So I was prepared to share their remarks. Maple Grove's essential was fire, safe working conditions. As folks may remember, this campaign was born out of the COVID-19 pandemic, and workers began organizing because of the unsafe working conditions they faced returning to work before worker safety was fully in effect in these stores. Workers continue to face issues working through COVID and currently do not have adequate time off protections should they get COVID at work, and many workers continue to contract COVID while coming to work. So it remains a concern for workers, and those in Maple Grove gathered for their community event and held a fireside chat discussing these things with co-op members and other community members in Minnesota. So for reporters from the Minnesota area, we will have a worker available to you after this call should you need to speak with somebody, and I can circle back for that. In Chicago, we're hoping Jim can rejoin this call very shortly here, so just stand by for that. For now, we'll turn to Victor Delgado in Berkeley, California, which was the second store to unionize at REI. Victor? And we lost Victor as well. It happens. We're here, we're live. Berkeley, California was the second store to unionize. Their essential was nutrition, which focused on vacation time and leave policy that's enough to nourish our lives with outdoor adventures. The Berkeley, California store, having been unionized for a long time now, holds regular community and co-op events throughout the year. Their event for this specific drive continued to increase its sort of co-op membership, participation, and bargaining. Victor will be rejoining the call shortly to discuss that. But for now, we'll turn to Teeny Alexander in Bellingham, Washington, the seventh store to organize with REI, to speak to the last essential, hydration.
Hi, everybody. My name is...
Sorry, Teeny. Victor, now that you're back, would you like to speak? I think you're on mute. We can't hear you, darling.
Can people hear
Yeah.
me?
Go ahead.
I don't know what that was about. Sorry.
Sorry, Teeny. Go ahead, Victor.
All right. Hi guys, I'm Victor Delgado and I work at REI Berkeley, the second unionized store. I primarily work in customer service right now, but I work in almost all departments, ranging from camping, ODW, SIF, so on. And our store's chosen essential was nutrition, and that's represented by vacation time and leave policy, which, if you didn't know, like, is pretty crucial to our own experiences, like handling products that we sell like at a day-to-day basis. But also like letting us like time to like step outside of like essentially like a endless routine of this like wage labor. So like the nutrition is kind of just in that same way, like the how do I say it? It's just essential. Like without like our vacation time, we're essentially always stuck in that same place without any time to kind of refresh ourselves and kind of take a step back from just constantly working with like cust customers, even though like, we are like kind of happy to do that. But at the same time, there should be moments where we can prioritize ourselves. And right now, REI really isn't allowing us like adequate vacation time. It honestly takes so long to even rack up a few days, like months even, like the same way with like the sick pay. It takes like probably at least 3 months to rack up like perhaps even a week of like paid vacation time. So that's like one of the most important things because at the end of the day, we are human beings and we do need time off from work. And not only just to like go outdoors, because I mean, we are an outdoor company and we do enjoy like being outside, but just a breath of fresh air is like, everybody needs that once in a while. And, for our action, we gathered outside and we've been holding regular events like with members and our coworkers outside. But our most recent one was held together with members and employees to discuss what the future of our union efforts are looking like to secure a contract because we've been bargaining for almost 2 years now and it's taken a hit in the store. But every day we've seen that like our members are really, really happy to be supportive of our actions. So discussing that with them was pretty good. And also just talking about what we would like to do, like with our time off, like if we were able to like achieve something like that through like bargaining our contract. But for now, I'll pass it off to Teeny in Bellingham.
I'm actually going to jump back to Jim because he's rejoined us while he's got power, and then we'll jump to Teeny. Thanks so much for your patience, Teeny. Go ahead, Jim.
Hello, I'm Jim. I have worked in the Chicago store here for 9 years and worked in the Maple Grove store for 2 years prior to that. For our bit of the 10 essentials was the repair kit, which is all about Ready. Ready was created a while back to address and acknowledge inequalities in the society and in our workplace, which is certainly desperately needed. A lot of our customers are all the same social class, a lot of middle-aged white people. And unfortunately, we're seeing that also reflected in our store. It's been getting slightly better, but there are still a lot of people that shop and work in our store that look like me. And REI started Ready a while back to really address these concerns and then pretty swiftly abandoned all the efforts as well. So we're really hoping to make them go back to the points that they swear that they stand by, and really improve the experience for everyone. And then I believe I am tossing it to Teeny.
Hi everyone, my name is Teeny Alexander. I'm representing the Bellingham store, the second store to unionize. And the essential that we were focusing on is hydration. Hydration, and essentially in the sense of minimum staffing levels. Well, you guys have heard that when you're on the trail, cutting weight is dangerous, especially when you're thinking about cutting weight of an essential like food or water. So we all need 3 liters per day. And sometimes depending on the season, you might need more, but you never need to go below that minimum, especially for the active work that we're all doing within this co-op. So effective staffing is all about having the right numbers of the right people at the right place at the right time. So in our sense, it is not just a matter of having enough water to hold us for our trip or just having the right amount of staff, but it's really just having the right amount of staff that is also knowledgeable, skilled, and experienced and comfortable to operate effectively and safely within the stores. So as companies are reducing their staffing levels, it really creates this risk and a danger to individuals to become overworked really and overwhelmed with trying to support all the goodness that the co-op really tries to bring to the members. All of us staff really do want to get engaged with every single member, not only just for the sake of having them with memberships, but trying to bring them outdoors, really empower them to have that experience out there, because the outdoors is great for all of us. It's really humbling. It brings us all to our inner peace, and we're all here for the same motive. But it's difficult if we are just one person in our department trying to support 10 people, especially if you're in footwear. I have no idea how some of my coworkers are capable of carrying 7 boxes while going up and down those ladders. Bless their hearts. Anyways, so in hydration, we use these things called filters sometimes because we have to take out all the bad things that are making it difficult or poisonous and toxic to us. So some of those things that I feel or need to be taken away is vacation time. Some of my coworkers don't get their PTO requests approved because we just don't have enough people to cover them for those days. And that's tough, especially if they are already working 40 hours, pouring their heart and soul into it, and they don't have that time to recover and recharge from the work that they're trying to do. So trying to add a filter to try to add some good things is something that should be taken into consideration. Things that show our signs of inadequate staffing that I'm seeing within my store is some tasks aren't getting done. We know we need to get product onto the floor. People are coming to stores for product, but we're being pulled right with people on the floor, as well as make sure that like visual projects are getting done. So some essential pillars that support our member getting affected. There's increased absences, turnover is being common right now, especially during the season. And then, unfortunately, sometimes customer complaints, our members are getting affected by this too. So just trying to have the right amount of staff is essential. And then trying to bring in back in the goods. Sometimes you add noon tablets or scratch or whatever flavors to your waters or to your hydration. So that's making sure that your like staff is engaged, that we're getting the information that we need clearly, sufficiently, and also in really good timing, because it's not easy going onto storefronts, Teams, Outlook, checking all these media communications, and then trying to go and get engaged with all of our members all within 15 to 30 minutes before the store opens. It's a lot. My people are movers and doers, but we need time, and just having the right people, the right space, that's just going to provide the adequate staffing for us. So ultimately, we just want to ensure that we're able to engage with our members and the greater outdoor community by just having the right staffing levels, by having the right people, right space, right time. So thank you. I'm going to hand this over to Dave, who's going to be talking about our last essential.
Yeah, hi, thanks, Teeny. Yeah, those of you keeping score at home, that was 9 essentials. We've been talking about 10 essentials. So the last missing essential is illumination. And what that looks like to us is shedding light on the company's failure to bargain in good faith with its constituent bargaining committees. So Chelsea alluded to this earlier, but there was a change in legal representation for the company just about a year ago, right as we at the Cleveland store sat down to the table to start our bargaining process. The company changed law firms from Perkins Coie to Morgan Lewis. Previously, Soho and Berkeley had been bargaining with Perkins Coie, and they had made some headway. They had made a couple of tentative agreements, and we in Cleveland actually were in some talks behind the scenes to pick up our bargaining where Soho had left off. So to adopt the contract that they had and go from there. As soon as Morgan Lewis came in, they shut all that down, and it was basically starting over from square one. And we have basically been at square one since then. We have proposed our entire contract at this point, as well as several side letters, and they have denied everything. They have refused to adopt any of our language at this point. It's just been no, 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 no. To the point where we can kind of guess what they're going to say, when we propose our next sections. So the 10th essential illumination, we really want to shed light on that. And how are we going to do that? Well, each one of the 9 unionized stores send a delegation to headquarters. They're going to be there in person on the front lawn, demanding that Eric Arts and the management of REI headquarters come out and bargain in good faith with their unionized employees. And I think Chelsea has a little more on that.
Yeah, so reporters after this call will be receiving an advisory with all of the details, but a different set of 9 workers representing all of the stores will be hiking to the headquarters tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific time. They will be demanding that the company come out and face workers head on. Recently, the company's decision makers have not been at the table. It's only been the attorneys. So you'll be hearing more from that tomorrow. You'll be receiving video footage as well as photos from that event too, but we wanted to announce that on this call and encourage those reporters on this call who are in the Pacific Northwest to join us. Please let me know if you'll be joining so we don't leave on the hike without you. It's the wilderness, so we want to make sure that you're with us and stay safe out there. But for now, I'm going to open the floor to everybody to speak a little bit more broadly about the 10 essentials and why it was so important as a national committee to come up with these 10 things that you'll be bargaining for unified at the table. So if there's any of you that want to speak more broadly to them, I know each of you spoke to your specific essential individually, but if anybody would like to take the floor, now is your opportunity. Just have at it. Go for it, Caleb.
Yeah, so I talked a little bit about insulation, and something that we had seen implemented at the Boston store is the use of temporary workers very heavily post-election. And that's something that I think can easily affect other stores. Temporary workers, like we are friends with them, we love them, but they do not have job security in and of itself. And it's a way for them to keep people on edge of like, will I have this job when my contract gets renewed? If I am affiliated with any sort of organizing, I have an end date, they can fire me at that end date. And so, thinking about more broadly, like how REI could implement that at other stores is, a little frightening. And so having a contract which, is very explicit in which temporary workers are allowed full-time positions, or not full-time positions, permanent positions, would be really important, and something that, every store would benefit from.
Anyone else want to chime in on this?
Yeah, I'm just kind of piggyback on that. we saw a very similar situation in Cleveland. We, up until the point that we unionized, had never hired seasonally. It was management's position that they don't want to hire seasonally because you get a less reliable workforce. Fast forward to that change in law firms that I mentioned. Since that has happened, we have only hired seasonal employees. So it is definitely a deliberate strategy to keep folks on pins and needles and to kind of drive a wedge between seasonal employees and permanent employees. Creating division within the workplace is kind of their MO these days. So it can be definitely be seen through the lens of union busting. It's definitely a deliberate tactic.
Jeff, I'm going to call on you. This set of essentials was being developed as you were voting in your union election. What are some of the things in the 10 that you think really relate to workers that are organizing?
Sorry, Chelsea, was that for me?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, we do have the recent experience of having just gone through the election. So, we did see, I touched on it a little bit, the stewarding our future. It's kind of the new thing that REI is going through. We call it the mission to attrition, really, at our place. They want to change the dynamic of the store and make it less about full-time employees and more part-time employees. And there's people that I work with, and I'm sure everyone here can agree with that. There's people that are trying to make REI a career and want and love the company. That was a mission. That was kind of a statement we were following throughout the whole campaign, as a campaign of love. And we were, we wanted to be a part of REI for a long time, but it's hard when they act like they don't want you to be there as much anymore, or they want, two people instead of just one you, basically. There's just, it's hard. We're in the early days still, so we're working on trying to get our bargaining committee going and all that. But we've sat in on some calls. We watched some of the stores do some bargaining sessions, and I can see the frustration, definitely, for sure, that's happening there. But it's good to know, and again, I appreciate everything that the other stores have done as far as the words and encouragement in that too.
And Annie, I'm gonna call on you as well. Durham had quite an uphill battle in its election. Do you think having something like the 10 essentials in place and a platform would have helped in sort of emboldening and unifying the solidarity around your campaign even more than it already was? I mean, clearly your store had the solidarity and brought it to the company. But something like this going into an election, do you think it only strengthens you more?
Absolutely. We up until the election, we're getting, as my co-panelists have pointed out, the dilution of our core staff with new people coming in and having to organize them as well. And I think now with our 10 essentials, the newer folks, I say the newer folks, they've probably been there 3 months maybe, are more supportive and eager to learn about our cause and why it's so important and how it affects them, because it is truly a collective vision, right? We want everyone's participation moving forward to secure all of these safety nets that should be kind of a no-brainer for any company. So it's really great that we are coming together as a group and really holding REI's feet to the fire.
Great. So we've talked a lot about the 10 essentials here. Before we take reporter questions, I want to talk a little bit about the history of bargaining here. And Zoe Dunmeyer from Soho is going to walk us through that. Clearly, and I want to thank Dave for talking to us a little bit about the march to the headquarters tomorrow, because Cleveland clearly was the straw that broke the camel's back here, right? In terms of a pivot in the company's behavior, in terms of how they were handling it. I mean, I would call the union busting of REI from the beginning as, you know, your normal union busting, your normal breaking the law. But there was certainly a sea change once Cleveland filed for its election, and the rest of you have certainly experienced that as well. So Zoe, walk us through from the very beginning to today, and then reporters who have questions on the 10 essentials as well as bargaining and tomorrow's action. Some of you have already populated them in the Q&A. Pop those in there, and then we'll take reporter questions after Zoe and Victor actually as well will be walking us through the bargaining process thus far. Take it away, Zoe.
Hi. So our store in Soho was the first store to win our election with RWDSU. We won our vote on March 2nd, 2022. The next day, REI announced that they would be giving out raises to every location except for ours. We had to endure blatant nonstop union busting throughout the entire election process, but honestly, this was a signal that bargaining was not going to be easy either. We began bargaining in June of that year with Perkins Coie. It was slow, but there were TAs being made, which showed some movement. And in August, our comrades in Berkeley won their election, which was really exciting for us as we were now bi-coastal. Unfortunately, through this time, the union busting happening at our store just never stopped. In fact, they seem to have increased their efforts targeting outspoken and beloved unit members. By November, we had had enough. We took action and showed them our strength as a union, and we won the raises that were, quite frankly, owed to us. We hoped that this would be kind of a turning point where REI would start coming to the table in a fair and a meaningful way. I can only assume by this point REI was not very happy because, as Chelsea had mentioned, when it came time for our friends in Cleveland to file for an election, REI was doing everything in their power to prevent that from happening. But REI workers are nothing if not resilient, and they fought hard and won. By the time we hit 1 year of sitting at the table and bargaining for our contract, with 5 stores winning their unions and 3 more just around the corner, REI once again pulled the rug out from under all of us by replacing their legal counsel with a team from Morgan Lewis. Don't get me wrong, Perkins Coie were no saints by any stretch of the imagination, but Morgan Lewis is the law firm that represents Amazon and their union busting. I can honestly say this came as a complete shock to us. Seeing how important REI's public image is to them, we never would have guessed that they would stoop this low. This happened right as our side letter was expiring, and they made the cruel choice to cut all of the Soho employees' wages, knowing that this would put extreme hurt on their workers. On top of this, we had to recapitulate almost the entire year of bargaining to Morgan Lewis to bring them up to speed, which, by the way, we are still currently having to remind them of things we've already bargained over and out. You'd think that this was bad enough, but just a few weeks ago, REI announced it would be excluding all of the unionized stores from our annual merit-based raises, which Soho did receive last year, which is yet again violating our status quo. These blatant delay tactics have to come to a stop. Since Morgan Lewis took over, they've refused to allow any company decision makers at the table, meaning that most bargaining days, they are unable to give us same-day responses to our proposals. In fact, more often than not, we have to wait until the next bargaining session to hear about the proposals and the issues that we gave to them, usually a month prior. Many of the time, very sensitive issues, time-sensitive issues. We have not had a single TA since bargaining with Morgan Lewis almost a year ago. Hopefully that was a pretty concise overview of bargaining in the last 2 years. And I just want to pass it over to Victor Delgado from Berkeley to add anything I may have missed.
Everything you said was pretty spot on. It's been rough. It's been a rough year, like in bargaining. I mean, their whole tactic, this has just become like a war of attrition. And in our store, we've seen it where this incredibly slow progress is more or less affecting employees and their initial I guess you could say, enthusiasm for being in favor of like a union, and they're starting to second guess themselves. But this is what REI wants. This is their idea and their mission to create division between like employees and like weaken like the union effort. Um, we actually just last night received news that we finally were able to agree to two tentative agreements after a year. So that's exciting news. Hopefully it doesn't take that long to reach them more. But yeah, their whole game plan is just using their lawyers to just stall and stall. And there's not even any REI officials, like no one from corporate even attending these meetings. It's simply just the lawyers. And every time our bargaining committee like even attempts to put something on the table, caucus will last for hours as their lawyers just research and look up the policy behind like what we're asking for. And whenever we get a counter proposal, it's just ridiculously like it's just bad. Like it doesn't really meet with us at all. Like they haven't bargained with us, honestly, like barely ever, like in like an honest sense, I mean. So it's just this whole thing is just wasting like everyone's time, and they know what they're doing. But at the end of the day, like the only way we can really like make any improvements or advancements is by like unifying our efforts. And this is exactly what we're doing here. So hopefully all of us can see like major improvements and strides towards reaching like contracts in like the near future.
Thank you both. So reporters who've not done so already can use the Q&A function to populate with their questions. We've received a couple of procedural questions, so I'm just going to answer now, and then we'll turn to our first question. So we received a question around ULPs, and if we have filed a failure to bargain in good faith charge or not, or other ULPs. Yes, all at the time it was 8 stores filed a coordinated national failure to bargain charge back in November, and combined both the RWDSU and the UFCW have filed over 80 ULPs against the company. I've popped into the Q&A press release around that, but if you need more details or information, just follow up with me after. We will provide a recording of this to everybody after as well. That was a question that has been asked a couple of times, as well as the details for tomorrow's action as well. With that, I will turn to Renato Duraldo of the Seattle Times, and we'll open your mic to ask your question now, Renata. So you can unmute yourself and ask your question live.
Thank you. I'm curious if you could speak on the recent layoffs that REI has had, and if you think that has negotiations have been impacted as a result of these layoffs. Yeah, just any details you guys may have on that. Thank you.
Thanks, Renata. Who'd like to take that one up? Dave, go ahead.
Yeah, it definitely has had an impact on negotiations in the sense that it has really fired up our employees and generated a lot of interest in the bargaining process from, I guess what you would call like the rank and file. The most recent round of layoffs was actually the third round of layoffs in like the last year or so. And the reason that is given is always that REI is not profitable. REI is not in a position to make money this year, despite billions in revenue. Their financials will come out shortly if they haven't already. So we'll get to see. Last year, I think it was 3.2 billion in revenue. So it's not a question of are they making money? It's a question of where are they spending it. Morgan Lewis, they're very good union busting law firm, and they charge a pretty penny to do so. So yeah, the layoffs did not affect us at the Cleveland store specifically, but each round of layoffs really does kind of add fuel to this fire of who's going to be next.
Caleb, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in real quick about the layoffs. So it did affect the Boston store. 5 people were laid off, and it actually targeted a lot of union supporters, specifically from like the group that was designated for layoffs, which was called sales leads. And it actually affected our way of bargaining in the sense that like members of our bargaining committee were no longer employed at REI because of the layoff.
We'll go to our next question, which is from Dave Jameson of the Huffington Post. And Dave, will go ahead and allow you to unmute yourself.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for doing the call. Yeah, I got an email today as a co-op member, encouraging me to vote for to determine REI's board members. I was just wondering if there are any like union allies on the current board, and if you all have recommended that co-op members vote for anyone in particular. Thanks.
Dave.
Yeah, great question. The board and the bylaws surrounding board elections are very opaque, especially to REI members. To answer your question, no, there are not any labor allies up for election to the board. And that's because every candidate for the board has to be approved by the current board. And another bylaw states that any employee who has worked for REI, either past or present, is ineligible to sit on the board ever. So the best thing to do for members who are sympathetic to the labor movement at REI is to vote no candidate. That is an option on the ballot, and the collective number of votes for nobody will send the message to the board that the membership is paying attention and they don't like what they're seeing.
Okay. Next up, we're going to go to Liza Kramer, who has a question about the REI program. And I'm going to ask if Jim can take this one.
Yeah, I can take that. So the REI.
Ask Liza. Let's let Liza ask the question first.
Too quick.
So Liza, go ahead. You can unmute yourself. Liza?
I don't know. Is this working?
Yep, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Very good. I'm new here, so let's see. I'm an intern at KPFA Radio in Berkeley, and so I haven't given this a whole lot of thought. My question, but I want to say that like I'm a labor supporter myself, but I had heard. So this is like I heard from workers at another clothing store in Berkeley that some of the firings of workers at the Berkeley store was not about union busting, but that workers had stolen, merchandise from the store. That there was video evidence of this and blah, blah, blah. So I hate to even ask such a question, like given my own views, but it's just something I've heard. So I just wanted to ask if there have been firings at the Berkeley store and what do you know about that?
Sorry, Liza, your question was about the REI program. So let's start with that. And then maybe we can circle back about Berkeley later. So because I don't want to start a precedent where the question that you populate is different than the question that you verbally ask. So The question was about the READY program and what it stands for and how it operates. So Jim, if you can answer that, and then you and I can circle back later about Berkeley. Okay, Liza? Okay. So Jim, can you go ahead and answer the question that was populated in the chat?
Yeah, so the READY committee is, it stands for Racial Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. It was started by REI to have these committees started in each store to discuss the issues around inequalities, both societal and with our hiring practices, and what we can do to raise awareness about such issues among our staff, and how we can strengthen our hiring processes to bring in a more diverse crowd to work at the store.
Thanks so much. So we're going to take two last questions. We're going to turn to Enya Chi, whose question is around leave policies. So Enya, we're going to open your mic to ask a question around that.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
A lot of you talked about leave policies and the difficulty in achieving leave policies. From REI, I was wondering what the current REI policy is regarding maternity and paternal leave for parents who have newborn children, and if the union is bargaining to have better, more humane maternity, paternity leave for these employees. And yeah, that's kind of it. Thank you.
So who wants to take that one on? Leave policies?
I can.
Okay, go ahead, Caleb.
Actually, it's Jeff. Sorry.
Yeah, Jeff can go.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say we have a few coworkers that have recently had children, and I know they've stopped in the store last couple weeks and said hi and stuff. But I believe REI gives a 6-week paternity leave, and then you can take up to another 6, but it's unpaid. We discussed it at one of our recent meetings. I think we feel that is pretty decent there. You are given the option. We do want to try to build off of it possibly, though. There's other issues too that might be, considered there, but we, at least in our store, we've talked about it. We think that's okay. But I think the 6 weeks with another optional 6 is all right, though. But something to build off of.
Okay, great. I lied. We're going to do 2 more questions just because there's one that's coming under the wire that's a really good one. So we're going to turn now to Steve Greenhouse of The Guardian. So Steve, we're going to unmute you.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for this very helpful explanation of state of play. Strategically, how will you, as members of the REI union, react to the recent news that Starbucks, tired of all the bad publicity, tired of all the NLRB complaints that has broken the law by illegally firing workers and closing stores and cutting benefits, how will you members react to the news that Starbucks is apparently suing for peace with its union and indicates that it wants to finally reach a first contract after more than 2 years of hardly budging in negotiations?
Go ahead, Caleb.
Yeah, so obviously this is very recent news. This is like a very initial reaction to that. I think this is a testament to kind of the power of organizing in the first place. Starbucks would have never made this decision if the workers there did not put pressure on the company through collective organizing. And I also believe that this is a testament to a newer generation coming in and supporting the labor movement more concretely. I think, Starbucks employs a lot of young people. REI also employs a lot of young people, and them kind of realizing that their market base is not going to tolerate this is kind of where this is coming from. Yeah, so that's kind of like our reaction.
Okay. And we're gonna, go ahead, Victor.
I just wanted to add that it's also really important to like take the lesson that it's taken them like so long to even achieve this, that although we're in like a similar situation, like we shouldn't like not even for a second think that we need to give up or like lessen our efforts, because I mean, Starbucks is an incredibly large company with a lot of influence. So for them to essentially finally give in, like that says a lot. So I feel like for us, we can take inspiration from that to continue forward and like just be relentless and not stop and keep putting pressure on REI to do the same. So hopefully that comes to fruition.
Thanks. And our last question, which is a perfect note to end on, is going to go to Samantha Delgado of More Perfect Union, who's asking how folks are feeling going into tomorrow's action, but we'll let her ask it directly. Go ahead, Samantha.
Thanks so much, Chelsea. Appreciate that. And thank you all for taking the time to speak with us today. Yeah, I'm curious how y'all are feeling, how workers are feeling ahead of tomorrow's, hike, particularly considering, the battle it's been. I'm sure that it's been at times quite tense to negotiate this first contract. So yeah, I'm curious how workers are feeling, and I would love to hear from multiple folks if possible.
Let's do a round in order. We'll start. Yeah, go ahead with Zoe.
Okay. Yeah, as someone who's been in it since before the beginning, I think it's really exciting. I think it was only a matter of time until something like this happened. And I think everybody here would agree that it's like hopefully a big turning point for all of us. I know a lot of people at my location have been kind of asking like, what's happening with the national campaign? Like, what are we doing? And so it is really exciting that like come tomorrow at 1, which I will be at work at the time, we can actually tell them like, this is happening, this is real. And on a kind of side note, I am extremely jealous that I will not be there. I would love to physically be able to see what reactions happen there. But yeah, so we're really, really excited.
I'm just going to call names in circle. Dave.
Yeah, I am extremely excited. I'm very optimistic. Something that we have heard at the bargaining table from folks on our side a lot is that it's going to move really, really slowly, and then all of a sudden it's going to move really, really fast. And I think that 2 years ago, it was Soho. A year ago, it was 3 stores. Now it's 9 stores, and with a national platform unifying all the stores, and a platform that we can take to other non-unionized stores and point to and say, look, this is what we're fighting for, and this is how we're doing it. We're going to headquarters because they're not coming to us, so we're going to take it to them. It's gonna generate a lot of uncomfortable questions for REI to answer, and it's really going to be sort of a wake-up call for the membership who hasn't necessarily been paying attention so far.
Caleb.
Yeah, I've been discussing this with our OC in Boston, and this is something that's really exciting for us. It's something that we have like kind of been like, what if we went to the HQ and like told them we want to bargain and like stop doing this to us? And now it's finally happening. And I'm also gonna echo Zoe's sentiment of like, I am so jealous that I cannot be there. However, I will be cheering from all the way from Boston on the other side of the continent. Yeah, continent. Um, and yeah, we're just like really hyped to like see how this goes.
Victor.
I mean, this is kind of what you want to see, like after, waiting so long for any type of improvement. This is it, like, like a large, like scale, like movement like that directly in REI's face. It's time for them to like face the music. So like just I mean, I would love to personally see like what like maybe someone like Eric Arts would have to say. We'll just have to wait and see if he'll even want to say anything. I hope he does, but yeah, this is what I've been looking forward to for like the longest time, like something that is like directly in their face. They can't really run away from it. They can't use their lawyers. Well, maybe they can, maybe they won't. Who knows? But yeah, this is something really exciting and hopefully sets off a larger chain reaction that we see all across the country.
Annie.
I echo everyone's sentiments of jealousy and excitement. I think more stores will be more emboldened to fight for a better workplace because, we are a small group, but as everyone pointed out, as a collective, we have more power. And so it'll be interesting to see the reaction to our public statement of being out there and asking corporate to bargain with us. So excitement.
Jim.
I am very excited to see this happen. We were all inspired by Soho, watching them vote for unionizing, and we've been kind of trickling in stores, and now we have the numbers and the momentum that we have a big organized platform and message, and this is kind of the dream, and I'm excited to see how many others are inspired by this big movement.
Jeff.
Yeah, just like everybody said, excited, jealous. We are sending a couple of awesome people out there tomorrow, so I'm really happy for them, and I'm excited for all of us. We are fighting our own bargaining sessions at our own stores, but end of the day, we're all one big REI union, and we're working together because numbers are power, and that's. We can work off of each other. We're still new, but we're gonna learn a lot from you guys, I'm sure.
And last but not least, our final baton in the marathon from Bellingham, Teeny Alexander. Bring it home for us.
Well, to say that I'm excited is an understatement. So to have 10 Essentials bring everybody together collectively was exciting to see. Now to see everyone getting out of the chat and we're going to join physically in person, I cannot wait to feel the recharge that is going to be with us all physically charging together, demanding for everybody to bargain with us. So I am so excited to see everyone come to my home state, Washington, to bring the table to them. So excited, I am thrilled.
Thank you all. I'll be following up with the reporters on this call, and thank you to the entire National Committee. We'll see you all soon. This will be the first briefing, but it will not be the last. And thank you so much again. We'll see you soon. Bye.